some of you can relate to that. And the other thing I'm going to do, Amy, if it's okay with you, is I'm going to make you a co-host. And I just do that in case you somehow lose power. The call can continue if that's okay.
Of course.
All right. Make co-host. Yes. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I know I'm going to be watching, and Amy, you can watch too, as well as people coming in to the waiting room. Just let them on in. It is great to see everybody. Can't believe the school year is about to kick off. So I bet that some of you are feeling that way too. Since this is our first call of the school year, I'd love to take a few moments and just have people say your name and your institution and program that you're with, and then if you'd be kind enough to drop your name and program and institution in the chat for folks who are want to go back and see who that actually was that just said that. So and I'm just gonna look across my screen here, and I'll start with Amy. She's first.
Hi, I'm Amy Radoshansky with the College Living Experience.
Great. Sabrina.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Schultz McLean. I am new to Loras College and help operate our Lynch Disability and Resource Cultural Center.
Great. So your first call.
I was on one last week, but the first official group call.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Stephen.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Stunder. I'm the Director of Neurodiversity Initiatives at Chestnut Hill College in Philadelphia and the Executive Director of our Life Skills Through Career program as well.
Aliza.
Hi, I'm Aliza Green. I am the Director of the Autism Support Program at the University of Arkansas. Go Hogs!
Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Thierfeld Brown, and I direct a program called College Autism Spectrum. And I've been introducing my former self today. It's too many times. Lee, you know how at women of a certain age, I'm formerly from Yale and formerly from UConn Law School.
Great. Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan Davis, and I'm the director of the UA ACTS program at the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide. Nicole Weeks.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Nicole Weeks. I'm a professor of neuroscience and psychological science at Pomona College, but I'm here because I'm also doing some consulting as a neuroscience specialist for a new center of neurodiversity run by Nikki Elliott down at University of San Diego. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
Gabriella.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriela Velasquez. I am with Cornerstone Connect at SUNY Purchase College.
Good to see you. Carson.
Hi, I'm Carson Poppy. I'm a graduate program coordinator for the Post-Secondary Autism Support Service program at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And my supervisor, Carolyn Blondin, should be joining us in a few moments.
Great. Hillary.
Hi, I'm Hillary Meyer, Dean of Academic Success at Triton College. I oversee our accommodations department, as well as our skill enhancement and employee development program, and lead our strategic plan efforts for neurodivergence.
Wonderful to see you. Gianna.
Hello, I'm Gianna Osborne. I am also from Cornerstone Connect at SUNY Purchase.
Catherine.
Hi, and I'm also with Cornerstone Connect at SUNY Purchase.
Great. Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Endlick, clinical psychologist and educational consultant, founder of Top College Consultants, helping neurodivergent students nationwide apply to college, and I am located in Northern California.
Great, lucky you. Anita.
I coordinate the Transition Autism Program at Harper College. We're a community college in Illinois.
Right. Tom.
I'm Tom Beeson. I am with Clemson University Spectrum Program.
Right. Harry?
Oh, hi, I'm so sorry I'm late. Carrie Rose Tomo, with Connect at Malloy University. We're just starting this September full year. We've run 3 summer programs and we're just starting and we have 4 students.
Wonderful. Gabriella with 1 L.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby. I go by Gabby. I just didn't change my name. Gabby Munoz from Daly College with the City Colleges of Chicago for the After 22 program.
Good to have you. Michaela?
Hi, I'm Michaela King with the Ascend program at Missouri State University West Plains campus. We're a 2-year university.
Right, and Scott?
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Truck. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Success here at Berkeley, which is Berkeley College of Music and Boston Conservatory at Berkeley in Boston. So I have oversight of our accessibility area. So I'm just joining today to get some more knowledge about our MIND program and how we can best support students.
Great to have you. Lindsay?
Hey y'all, Lindsay Hill from Michigan State University. I'm in the Disability Services Office and also run our autism program.
Great, good to see you. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah David. I'm the director of the Path Transition Program with Read Autism Services in partnership with Felician University.
Great. Marley?
Hi, everyone. I'm Marley Bickford-Bushy. I'm a career advisor at Landmark College in Putney, Vermont.
Great. Martha?
Hi, I'm Martha Doro. I'm an accessibility advocate at Austin Community College.
All right. Jessie?
It looks like Jessie put in the chat that that they needed to step away.
Okay. Lynn, did I get you? No, okay.
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted. I was having technical difficulties. My name is Lynn De Silva. I'm from Dean College in Franklin, Massachusetts. I oversee the Arch Learning Community. We're starting a new program this fall called the Engage program for students on the spectrum.
Great, good to have you. Felicitas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Felicitas Ngrave from UC Riverside. I help lead the sensory experience on campus and formerly used to be a disability specialist doing the neurodiversity programs there.
It's good to see you. Sam?
Hi, my name is Sam Rao. I am at Aurora University. I'm the Assistant Director of Neurodiversity Initiative and Pathways Programs.
Wonderful. Did I get everybody? Oh my gosh, this is
Came in late.
oh, Adaro.
Adaro Allison, Arizona State University with Growth Achievement Transformation and Enrichment, the GATE program for neurodivergent students.
Good to see you. And I saw Sarah Simmons just joined us.
Hi, yes, I am Sarah Simmons. I am the Director of Accessibility Services at Merrimack College.
Great, good to see you. Anybody else I miss? If I did miss you, just unmute and people were coming in, the screen was moving around. If this is your first time having a call with us, just wave your hand. Just all right. That's great. We are really always thrilled to welcome people to this really wonderful community of professionals. So I'm Lee, I'm the director of the College Autism Network. And the one thing that I do want to remind everybody, of course, is the College Autism Summit is a mere 8 weeks away. We will be in Columbus, Ohio, October 13th to 16th. If you haven't been to the summit, you're just missing out on something great. So please join us. If you've been to the summit, wave both hands with enthusiasm. Yeah, I mean, it's a great event. We have a good time. And so please take a look at the website and consider joining us there to meet some of these people in person. All right, so I am very happy to introduce to you our guests today. It was actually Amy Radochansky who was kind enough to suggest that folks that she's been working with, Colin Cass and Mary Hickey from Parent Coach Professionals, would have some useful tips for this group. And so she extended an invitation to them, and we worked out this date. And I've been so looking forward to this. And so I'm going to turn it over actually to Amy, to Mary, and to Colin to talk a little bit about their work together, and then see what Colin and Mary have to share with us. And at any point, if people want to put something in the chat, if there's a question or some clarification you need, drop it in the chat, and either Colin, Mary, Amy, or I will see that and try and get your question in front of our speakers today.
Hi, everyone. I know many of you, but I'm Amy Radochansky, and I'm the president of College Living Experience. And we provide wraparound services for students while they're participating in higher education. So a dynamic of our program is that we have independent living skills instruction, academic coaching, career coaching, and social programming. And a number of years ago, Colin and the rest of the parent coaching team had approached me and talked a little bit about the benefits of having a parent component to our services. And so I want to bring this up because I know it's something many of us are struggling with, is understanding how to adequately both support the parent experience and honor that, as well as create some boundaries surrounding and help understand their autonomy of their child who's going off to college, and understanding the complexity of college systems these days. So one of the things that I just want to share is that as an organization, we provide parent coaching as a service to all of the parents who enroll, because for us, it helps parents process their transition in addition to letting go of their child who's moving away from home. And we found and get this continuous feedback from parents about how supportive it is, how much it helps them with the changing dynamics of their relationship with their child. And I just thought it would be a really nice thing to have Colin and Mary come and share some tips and strategies for the start of the year. It's something that I think we could all use. I always get constant reminders from them about how to best work with families. And while they work with us or our families individually, I think their knowledge is so wonderful and is always so thoughtful that I thought they might be able to lend some expertise to all of you. In addition, and I was so taken with the work that they did, I actually took a course from two of the other coaches at Parent Coaching Professionals. Actually, Colin was one of my instructors, right, Colin? Yes. He passed me, which is great. So I became a certified parent coach as well, which I think has helped me as a professional in working alongside the families who enroll their child in our program. So I'm going to let them take it, and yeah, I hope you find it of benefit.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. My name's Mary Hickey. I am one of the co-owners of Parent Coach Professionals, along with Colin. And we are, as Amy and Lynn have said, we want to share some information with you today that we hope at the end of the day will just be really helpful and supportive. We have had a wonderful partnership with CLE, as Amy has mentioned. It's been really rewarding. I think just a collaborative, collegial partnership where we really prioritize services to the entire family and really prioritize learning and growing and getting better at what we're doing. And that's what we hope to bring to this today, is just some more insights and information that whatever the level of services or that you may have, or considering that this may help you make some decisions and or think about ways in which your students can be more successful when their families are really well supported. Because at the end of the day, I think many of you have a lot of concerns and a lot of responsibility that you're managing with supporting students, with helping them be successful, with thinking about retention, and as well as growth and that curve and arc of success for everyone that you're working with. So we want to support that. What we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through some slides. We will make sure that these slides are made available. I'll send them off to Lee so that they can be shared out with anyone who wants them. Colin, would you like to add anything before I share my screen?
Just my appreciation. Amy and Lee, thank you so much for having us here. And Amy had said, we're here to share our expertise. Based on everyone's introduction and qualifications, I don't know how much we're sharing our expertise. As everyone was sharing, I was like, whew, it's getting a little warm in this office. Very qualified individuals that are here today. But really, really excited to be here. Feel very, very grateful to be able to be with everyone. And hopefully there's some tidbits that you'll be able to find helpful today.
All right, well, let's get started then. So we're going to go through some slides to talk about some of the patterns and trends we're seeing with families, how that impacts the students, how it impacts programs, and some ideas for working with families. At Parent Coach Professionals, that is what we do. We work with families, with parents to support transitions, to support growth, and ultimately to support the independence and success of both their young adult as well as the parents themselves. So I'm going to actually hand it over to Colin to get us started.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And a little bit of history, and certainly not too long of a history, because it's boring to a lot of people who don't know who we are. But I would say that our background for Mary and myself is working in programs. So we worked many years in therapeutic programs, coaching-based programs. And the reason that I bring that up is because it's given us the unique opportunity to be able to see both sides. That's seeing what the student is experiencing as they're leaving home and transitioning into college. And we get to work with parents now on a regular basis, working with them as they are letting go, as they are stepping back and going through the transitions that we can witness in real time they're struggling with. What are some of the things that we're noticing? What are some of the things that we are seeing as parent coaches? And as we were speaking with Amy and Lee, we had asked the question of what feels like it's going to be the most helpful. And one of the things was sort of the common trends that we are seeing from parents, being able to share that, being able to hopefully bring some skills and some tools that will be helpful. Like I said, hopefully you can take some of these away from the slides that will be shared. So the idea of navigating multiple transitions. So parents of neurodivergent college students, they're going to have to go through a lot of change, right? This isn't just the one transition of your child's leaving the home. They're going from living at home to living away from home. That's such a huge difference when the parent maybe doesn't necessarily expect all the small things that play a role in that. And then they realize how nice it was having their young adult who maybe has struggled in academics or in the social realm, having to depart the home. So they're no longer waking them up in the morning. They're no longer making sure that they have that granola bar or that breakfast. They're no longer able to take them out to the bus or to drop them off at school, pick them up at the end of the day when band practice is over, or make sure they're making their tutoring appointment. That no longer is there. That shift that is from high school to college is vast. And there's so many things that parents need to be able to navigate. And the thing that is probably the most common sort of tagline that we use at Parent Coach Professionals is going from parenting a minor to parenting an adult. And how can we as parents make sure we are keeping our children in the young adult role? And that can be really, really difficult for many parents, because parents are no longer going to have access to a lot of the information that they have grown accustomed to, right? They don't get the call from the school that says, hey, your kid didn't show up to class this morning, or your kid was 15 minutes late. They're not getting the midterm email about here's what grades have been. This is what attendance has looked like. They don't have access to the medical and legal records that they're used to when they're getting the call about here's the upcoming appointment, or here's things that are going in a legal sense. When we have a child, when we have adolescents, those are things that as parents, we really get used to being able to see and have access to. And then we really cater our parenting styles to that. That shifts as they step away to college. So what are some of those things? First and foremost, when we're looking at this graphic, it's the idea of letting go and having trust. And it's not just for the young adult having to leave the home, make that leap and hoping that they're going to be able to land on the other side. It's for the parents as well. Do they have that belief that their child's going to be able to make this jump? Do they have the ability as parents, do they have the resources and the support to be able to let go and have their child leave the home, go off to college or go off to next steps, whatever that looks like? And are they going to be able to land? Are they going to be able to feel like they have something to hold on to that's going to work for them, so that they've learned how to be able to live their life without the child at home anymore? So what are some of these things that can be anxiety provoking from parents? And as Mary and I were coming up with the presentation, we talked about a couple of things. There's the unknown and there's the known. And at first we have the unknown. So these are the things that parents are going to be at home feeling anxious about because they just don't know the answer to it. It's, will my young adult be safe? Is that something that when they leave class at the end of the day and they have to go home, or they have an evening class and they have to go home, or if they're in a supportive program and they're headed back to their dorms or whatever the program may be, does it feel like we can be comfortable as parents that my child is going to be safe? How will I know how they are actually doing? That's academically. They are not getting the reports from school saying, this is how your child is doing. This is when they showed up to class. This is how many classes they've come to, and this is what their grades are. They don't know how they're doing physically. Are they eating enough? Are they having breakfast? Are they only doing DoorDash? Are they only microwaving their meals? Are they getting any vegetables? How are they doing mentally? Are there mental health issues that are coming up? If they've had anxiety in the past, how are they doing with that? How are they able to sort of manage that mental health piece that is so important for young adults as they are going through college and as they are going through those years, 18 to basically the rest of their lives? How is my young adult going to respond to freedom and responsibility? Because we have these two amazing things, freedom and responsibility, that a lot of times are tough to navigate together for young adults. And so when we as a parent don't know how they're going to respond to that, it oftentimes brings up a lot of anxiety. So if it's, they don't have a curfew, they get to be able to return home at whatever time, or it's, are they going to make it home by curfew if they are part of a supportive program? What are they going to do when they have to be able to take responsibility for themselves? And if they aren't doing so, who's going to advocate for the young adult? Because as parents, that's something that they've really grown accustomed to. That idea of, I've been able to be the advocate. I've been the one who's been able to say, I need to make sure that my child has disability services. I need to make sure that they have extended time on tests. I need to make sure that they know that there's a doctor's appointment and this is why they're going to be late. When the parent's been an advocate for so long for their child, and especially certain students who are neurodivergent, being able to let that go and trust the fact that the student's going to be able to advocate for themselves. What will I do for myself? What's my role now as a parent? When I'm working with parents, one of the first questions that I ask is, what are some of the things, just tell me a little bit about yourselves, and what are some of the things that you enjoy doing? And the most common answer that I get, which really says a lot about where parents are at in the process, is, well, I don't really know anymore. I have to figure that out again because I've poured so much into taking care of my child or my children that I don't know the things that I've enjoyed. Way back in the day, I used to enjoy X, Y, and Z, but now I can't quite remember. So that's a big part of the unknown for parents. Then we have the known. These are the things that the parents know about, and they're going to be anxious about as well. Are they going to brush their teeth and eat breakfast and wake up on time and make sure that they have their schedule and they're going to not be locked out of their apartment? Are they going to have their phone if they need to call me? They know that when they were at home, they never really brushed their teeth, or I had to ask them 10 times to brush their teeth until they did it. Or the only thing they ate for breakfast was sugar, and then they didn't do well. So I had to be the one to be able to make sure they had protein or whatever it may be. How is my young adult going to be able to make friends if they're not socially driven? And so often, especially in this day and age with video games, with online video games where they're able to make friends and say, oh, I have a ton of friends. I've never met any of them in person, but I have a ton of friends. How are they going to be able to manage that when they're in classes, when they're with people and they have to be able to connect with peers on a social level? School failure has been an issue. How will we ensure that they're going to succeed academically? And that's one of, again, I feel like I keep saying the most common things. These are the key points, so they all are common. But what is it going to be like for my child if I'm not on top of them doing their assignments? When they were living at home, I knew that they were working with their tutor, so their math homework or their Spanish homework was getting done in that session. And then I would sit there and make sure that they were doing everything else academically. What's that going to look like now that they're off at college? Is my young adult going to be able to utilize the resources? Parents come to us and say they have access to a tutoring center, they have disability services, they don't go out of their way to be able to utilize it. There's a lot of times where young adults say, yeah, there's a tutoring center. I've never been there. I don't know where it is. And even just finding it causes anxiety for a young adult. So being able to, as a parent, sit in your anxiety of, is my child going to be able to utilize their resources? My young adult falsely believes that this will be easy. How do I help them be more realistic? So common for young adults to have fantastical thinking. Yes, there's some nerves going off to programs or going off to college. They oftentimes will be just kind of think, oh yeah, it's going to be great. I'll make some friends. I'll learn some skills. But then when it actually comes to them having to put in the work, they start to struggle. They start to realize, oh, this isn't exactly as easy as I thought. I had this kind of big picture idea of what this is going to look like. And now that we're down to the details of it, I feel anxious. I feel scared. I'm going to shut down because of this. And a big part of that for parents is wondering, how are they going to help their child or their young adult be realistic in this? So in what we're doing, and as we transition over to Mary, this is what we oftentimes are seeing. The first day of school, the parent is just tugging as hard as they can to get the child to get on the bus. The last day, it's that child's trying to get into the car with a friend, and the parent is holding on for dear life because they are the ones who are unwilling to let go. So now we'll transition over to Mary.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, and just to build off of what Colin has said and this comic is that, you know what, at the end of the day, as Colin mentioned, we've worked in programs extensively. We've, worked with families and parents for a long time. And parents of neurodivergent students have been champions, right? They've been advocates. They have worked so hard to support their students' needs. And so this is simultaneously the step into college and just being away is exciting and terrifying. And we just want to embrace the pieces of them that have worked so hard to support their kid in growing up and moving on, and really have compassion for the parts that are hard to, let go of and work with them around that. So a little bit more on trends, and then we'll get to some ideas and solutions around this. Is what we tend to see when a student's away at college is there can be some over communicating where parents may be contacting or trying to contact professors, the Office of Disabilities or Student Services, housing, advocating for the student where they need to be advocating for themselves, or just trying to get information. Parents love information, right? They feel secure. They have if they know what's going on and they have a plan, then they can let their guard down, versus, seeing how it goes. We also see parents tracking their students. This might be something that started in middle school when they got their first phone and is just something they've continued. So they're looking at, are they in class? Are they home at a reasonable time? So they're checking Find My Phone or Find My Laptop or what have you, and Life 360, and driving themselves crazy because they were 5 minutes late today. And it's not an area that's really productive or helpful for their relationship. So overparenting in general, they're sending reminders, they're doing the academic work for them, sometimes just over helping. They may be providing wake-up calls, or just micromanaging their life skills and laundry and all of those pieces. So there can be, these are some of the trends we're seeing, and trends of this, as technology changes, this becomes more intense as they have more access through things like DoorDash and Instacarting for the student when they're worried about whether or not they're eating, or sending them too much money because they've blown through it. They're not budgeting. Another big one that I'll go into more on one of the next slides is they tend to focus on outcomes instead of skill development. So there's tremendous pressure on them passing their classes or having a certain number of friends versus the process of learning to be independent, learning to communicate with professors, learning to budget. So we see this intensity around the outcomes. And then let's see here, let me get to the next slide. And then so these are some of the patterns that we're seeing. So what are some of the solutions and how can we be supportive? Let's get to the meat of what we want to talk about here is, just understanding that parental anxiety often results in demands on student services and student support programs. And responding to those concerns takes resources and it can take resources away from students. And that's where we have also our empathy for anybody in a program. You may have that anxious parent on the line or blowing up your email inbox. And managing them means you're not supporting their kid in doing the thing that the parent is anxious about, and it becomes a cycle. So what can we do? How can we provide some support? Coaching is one of those ways, and that is what we do. And there are ways to integrate that into your program. It does not need to be a full partnership with someone like Colin or I. It can be things that you can incorporate within your program. And what coaching does is it shifts the focus from managing student success to helping the parent cope with their own discomfort. So having someone skilled to just acknowledge that, like, hey, you know what, your kid's going to struggle a little bit. How are you going to cope with that? And beginning to shift the parent's focus away from their student to themselves and away from checking the box that they're getting something done to appreciating that skill development is what they're getting support with. And that takes time. We want parents to have more realistic expectations that students are going to maybe need to drop a class or change. Any student's probably going to change their ideas about what they're studying. And it's going to take them longer to get to certain milestones than maybe some of their siblings or peers at times. So we want to create those more realistic expectations and timelines. And we want to offer parents new strategies for communicating and supporting independence. Just like we often say, and I'm sure this is something you all talk about quite a bit, college is not grade 13. What got us through high school, we need to take a pretty big leap forward as a student to navigate college and or independent living. For parents, it's the same thing. The strategies that Colin described that got them through adolescence need to shift for young adults. So how do we help them learn to prioritize the relationship and growth over the results? One thing that you can do for your families is, as I said, and Colin is saying, just empathize and use some of these slides that Colin went through when you're communicating with the parent. So there's a saying that I heard an instructor in one of my coaching classes say that when you understand the problem better than they do, they automatically attribute the answer to you. Meaning when you say, hey, I bet you're worried about this and this and this, and how did you sleep last night thinking about X, Y, or Z? You know what? I once checked Life 360 on my kid. When they know that you get it, they calm down. They don't actually need the solution half the time. They just need to know you understand what they're worried about and that it's on your radar screen. That doesn't mean you're chasing their kid around with a checklist and doing what they're worried about. It just means you empathize and you know, hey, this is real for you. And you know what? I'm so glad that you reached out so that we can help put your fears to bed and help you let go. Parents of students with complex learning profiles are more open to accepting help and support. Incorporating any kind of coaching or any kind of support into your program. They have been looking for services their entire lives with their child most of the time. So they're really open to suggestions of support, whether it's within your program or something external that you may be aware of. So providing information to them can be very helpful. Normalizing that many parents struggle with this transition. It's not just them. Share some examples of what you've seen. Webinars or something similar, some low commitment involvement can help introduce and encourage parent coaching or other services to help that normalization process. So you don't have to have a full-blown coaching program. If even offering a webinar that just use some of these slides, identify some of the things that parents are worried about, talks about how you address some of those concerns, can put some of these things to bed for a lot of families. I say, oh, okay, they know you told them that, you know, they remember you told them that 6 months ago when they were making decisions about where to go next year. They just need a reminder that, yep, what we said is true. We are on top of these things. It's going to look a little different than you did it at home. And, you know, your child, your young adult will grow from this shift and this change. Other parents speaking can be really helpful, incorporating them into some of those webinars, you know, whether it's, you know, testimonials that you're using, put parent news, you know, if you have a blog, having a parent guest write it who's been through it normalizes it. So these parents just knowing they're not alone can be really helpful. Parents who have been through an experience where their child is just not perceived as being in the normative group is isolating. So anytime they get to connect with another parent can be really rewarding and helpful to them. So, you know, in addition to being able to describe the problem, there's also some specific things you can give to parents. So this next slide, Colin's going to go over, which we just, you know, as Colin mentioned at the beginning of this, we just want to give you some tools and some ideas that might be helpful. So Colin, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And not only do we want this to be helpful for you, this is one of the things that I think we hear so often when we're working with parents and they're really anxious. They want something tangible. They want something that they can hold on to and take away from the call and go, okay, this is something that I'm going to try. And when I talk to parents, what I'll tell them is that we're not going to be able to provide an answer that's going to give a huge shift where all of a sudden their child's going to just become a young adult that's independent and functioning. But what we can do is start to change the way that we show up as parents. And a lot of times those are small shifts that lead to bigger changes. And when I tell parents about when I ask parents, about how they're communicating with their young adults, I'll ask, what type of questions are you asking your young adult? Or what are some of the things that you tell your young adults? And they'll say, well, if they really don't know, they get anxious. And so I tell them what to do, and I can just kind of get them through it myself. Or when they give examples of questions they're asking, they'll say, well, I want to make sure they're taking their meds. I want to make sure that they're eating enough. I want to make sure that they're making friends and going to class. And what we'll encourage them to do is shift the way that they're showing up. And then we give them some examples. And this is a great slide to be able to share with parents, to be able to just let them know, walk away from the call with something so that you can feel good about it. So a lot of times parents will say, here's what you need to do. And then they'll go in providing a solution or an answer. We encourage parents to try, hey, I can hear that you're frustrated. How would you like to handle this? Who would you like to go to? What resources do you have there that you can utilize to work through this? When we ask these types of questions, I encourage parents to think about the message that we are sending to our young adults. When we provide the solution and the answer, what oftentimes we're doing is sending them a message of, I'm going to tell you how to do it because I don't have a belief that you're going to be able to do this on your own. But when we ask them what their plan is to approach it, we're empowering them and saying, hey, we believe that you can figure this out. That's why we're going to put this back on you. Instead of, I will call housing and see what I can do about this, we just ask, who should you talk to about this? Or who's the person in housing you would like to reach out to for this? And what I'll hear from parents is we've done this before, and then they just don't ever do it, or they don't know what to do. And what we'll say is, I'd love to check back in about this tomorrow afternoon. I'll plan on giving you a call around this time to see how it went. And if you're still struggling, we can talk about it more. Instead of, why haven't you returned my calls? It's, we haven't been able to connect this week. I know that you're busy. Let's schedule a time to talk for maybe 10 minutes this weekend. So in this example, what we're doing is, first of all, when we say, why haven't you returned my calls? We are usually going to be met with defensiveness from a young adult. When we start the question with why, it comes across as accusatory. It comes across in a way that maybe makes them feel like they need to be defensive. When we simply state we haven't been able to connect this week and then say, I know you're busy, we're validating their schedule. We're letting them know that we are respecting them as a young adult, and we recognize that. Then we come in with, let's schedule a time for 10 minutes this weekend. We're letting them know this isn't a huge call that's some unknown time limit. It's, hey, it's about 10 minutes, and let's figure out a time this weekend. So it's a great way to be able to shift into putting our child in more of a young adult role. Are you taking your meds or are you making friends? These two questions are great. If we can change those into how is managing your medication going? Or who are you spending time with? Or what's it been like navigating the social scene for you? When we can turn it into an open-ended and curious question, it allows them to be able to choose what type of information they are divulging to us as the parents. And the reason that's so important is because, again, we're putting them in a young adult place where they're not feeling like they're being interrogated and having to say, yes, I took my meds this morning. Yes, I'm making friends. Yes, I had breakfast. Yes, I went to coaching. They get to be able to choose what they're letting us know as a parent. It also naturally allows us to take a bit of a step back. And that's why I put curious at the end of open-ended and curious question, because it means that we may not get the specific answer that we're looking for, but that's okay. We have to start to get used to that. We're going to get some version of it. So medication management's been going relatively well. I missed a couple of days last week, but now I'm back on track. We feel pretty good with that answer, but it's a happy medium between interrogating them and just sort of letting it go without checking in. Why didn't you just blank? Instead, it's, would you like me to listen, or are you looking for a suggestion? So when a young adult is struggling and they reach out to their mom or dad, a lot of times what we see is the parent says, why didn't you just approach it that way? Somebody said in the chat earlier, it's really coming from a good place as a parent. And I think that is so true. So oftentimes when a parent's rescuing, it's because it's coming from a good place. They're wanting to protect their child. They are wanting to be able to make sure that they are taken care of, that they're not experiencing discomfort, that they're not experiencing something that is going to, really kind of throw them off of how they're doing. The issue with that is that they need to experience the discomfort. And instead of just stepping in and saying, here's what you need to do, by asking, would you like me to listen, or are you looking for a suggestion? It shows them that their input and their opinion and how we're communicating with them has value in the relationship. And that goes a really long way, because it takes it from a place of it being the adult, the parent to child relationship, into the young adult to an adult relationship. And that's filled with much more respect, much more maturity, and it's how we can allow them to sort of naturally step into a place of more independence and more autonomy.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to make sure we have time to open it up for questions. As Colin mentioned, there's a lot of great stuff in the chat. And a couple things in here about, parents emailing, like having the login and emailing as their student or filling out forms. One of the things that Colin and I also stress with families is just understanding what's progress for them. How can they take maybe one step away from doing that? What could that, and helping them brainstorm ways to begin to let go if they're really holding on tight. These are also great examples to put in your webinars and newsletters. And, it's a little less threatening for a parent to hear it as an general example, like, hey, this doesn't, here's an example of what doesn't work. And have another parent share how they shifted away from doing that can be another really helpful way. So I'm going to stop my share here and bring us all back and see what other questions, comments. Amy, if you have anything that we missed that you want to chime in with.
Sorry, I had muted myself so I could listen, but I don't have anything in particular. I think just highlighting a few things that you all have done for some of our families that I hear them repeat back have been really helpful for them. And their dynamic is, one, we do some pre-orientation work, and I don't know if everyone does that, but just before enrollment starts in July, we normally try to bring something together to talk about the parent experience of letting go. We bring in some of the examples of questions that you have that you shared on your screen, and that's been helpful. We do like a coffee hour and stuff with parents to bring them together. We don't have an online forum. I know that sometimes is used, but I've found more trouble with that in navigating some of that than of benefit. It feels like I'm using more energy and I'm trying to figure out how to use less energy in this space. And then the other thing that we have done with you guys that's been really positive, a webinar before going home at the Thanksgiving break about what it feels like to receive your child back in your home, because that's a whole other experience that y'all educated me about, and some considerations I hadn't had, which is like, will they have the same rules? Will they have the same schedule? What is expected of them? To try to avoid the conflicts that can occur sometimes, and like different and changing expectations from them as a college-aged adult, where they've had to full autonomy on the campus to then being back in their home. And I think that's actually a really normal experience. It probably is something that my parents navigated too, but there's just this different lens. And I think that that's been a really powerful thing. It's not just pre-programming, but during the year programming that honors kind of the stage of what's happening during a semester, the stress they might be experiencing, not only in traveling for Thanksgiving, but also finals approaching. Oh my gosh, what can you expect? So that's something that I found to be quite valuable in channeling and normalizing some of the themes from parents to support them, which we found has decreased some of the direct communication to us.
Mhm. Awesome.
Stephen, you had a question. You want to go ahead?
Sure. This is all just so interesting because literally I came from an event today where we had parents on campus. So 5 minutes before coming onto this call, I was having a conversation with a family about their student schedule and things of that nature. And one of the things we're really trying to push in our program is the idea that the communication has to come from the student. And I actually excused the parents from the room so I could have a conversation with the student today, because, one of the things that's going to happen in a week and a half when they're here is that we're not going to talk to their parents. And again, one of the things I really try to get across, I'm a former high school guidance counselor. So obviously the transition to post-secondary is something I'm very familiar with, and the idea of trust. And I say to parents all the time, I need you to trust me that if there's something I need to tell you, I will. But you don't want to know everything that your college-age child is doing and saying and feeling. You just don't. And if it rises to the occasion where we feel like it's health and safety or something of that nature, right? Like, there's that whole HIPAA phrase, minimum and necessary information, right? I'm not going to read from your child's transcript, but if there's something if information I need to provide you as a professional that I feel like would help you connect with your child, I will certainly do that. But the understanding is that your child is coming here and there is a support system provided for them to be able to make sure that they're getting the things that they need. And you as a parent have chosen us to be able to do that. So you got to trust us a little bit. I think that trust speech went over with one or two of the families. I saw a couple side eyes and I'm like, they're maybe thinking about it might be okay. But, really, again, this is also relevant because I'm not kidding. I walked into my office from that conversation and then this was the topic. So thank you. Very helpful, validating. Appreciate it.
Great.
Stephen,
I
what you're
had that
saying
covered.
is so interesting, because what I said to the family today is, I want you to think back when you were in college. Would you have wanted your parents to know everything that you did? And the mom sort of looked and went, well, but, and the dad grabbed her arm and went, no, just no.
Right.
I had that same conversation today. I think it's the season and privately why this is so timely. We can all share in the experience a little bit. But I had the same conversation. I did this for parents this morning. I said, your child may change their hair, their clothing, their sleep preferences, their eating preferences, their activity level, all of these things. And guess what? You've now entered into all the normalcy of college, because everyone gets to do that. And they're not part of a subgroup. They're a part of just the general college flexing autonomy now. And they were like, oh God, please don't tell me who they're dating. I was like, yeah, no worries. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, and it's that idea of having to separate our values as parents from the values of our children. And that is a really difficult thing for parents to do. And one thing that was so interesting, COVID was such a difficult time for so many families and so many young adults. One of the things that we witnessed, and I think, Stephen, when you said that you asked parents to leave the room, the level of discomfort that comes with that, when parents dropped their children off at a lot of the programs that we worked with, they weren't allowed to enter the building. And the amount of anxiety that came from parents to be able to say, well, who's going to set up their dorm room and who's going to set up their space and what's that going to look like? And they weren't allowed to go in. The call that I had with them, several weeks later, when every parent was like, oh yeah, actually it turned out fine. Like we were totally in our anxiety. It was all about our belief system as a parent. So look there's not people on here saying like so many wonderful things came out of COVID, but that was a really interesting thing to have to be able to, or to be able to witness and to be able to see parents experience.
Colin and Mary, I just want to take a moment to look at Hillary's question in the chat, because I think this is really an issue, right? How do you help parents reduce the combative approach to their adult children's education, right? So they have been these fierce advocates, and in some cases they've really had to be fierce and skeptical, and and it's a boxing ring that they step into. And then they come to college, and here you all are, like these wonderful partners that are, so much more positive. How do you get parents to step out of the boxing ring and see this as a true partnership? And maybe I should extend that question to everybody on the screen, because you do have a lot of experience doing exactly this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the combative approach, one of the things that I think is so key is early on in the coaching relationship when we're working with parents is being able to not only try to set those goals for what is it you're wanting to accomplish, what is it your child's wanting to accomplish, but normalizing what it is that they're experiencing as parents, and normalizing the fact that their child's going through something that's going to be difficult, that there's going to be pushback. To be able to have an advocate as a parent and to be able to try to help them change the way that they're showing up to the relationship with their young adult, when we can help them model that, hopefully it allows their young adult to be able to shift the way that they're engaging, and not only with the parents but with the community as well. I don't know if that specifically answers the question, but Mary, what would you say?
Similar. I think there's a couple of things. One thing Colin just did, which I think is very helpful, is use their language and talk about what can advocacy look like now? So they may be combative, or they may be used to fighting for their kids' accommodations and for their needs to be met. So we can help them shift from that combative or feeling like they have to be on guard for their kids' rights to saying like, what would success look like at this level? At the end of the semester, what do you want to see happen? How can we, and then just going into how can we empower your student to do this? And again, every family is going to be a little different. We're just trying to make progress with each one. The other thing, and I had another thought and I totally lost it. I lost it. Hopefully it'll come back.
Lindsay just put a question in the chat that her program is an optional program, so the students are registering. And does anybody here on the screen have a good way to entice parents to do things like webinars and to put themselves in position to learn some of these things?
Especially when you don't have access to their emails. Like, how do I get that?
Great question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Sometimes, Lindsay, what I've seen at some of the universities that I've worked with, they have parent offices. And sometimes you can do it almost through development by saying, I want parent emails not only as a source of revenue for the institution, but I also want to be able to connect with parents so that we can front run some possible difficulties. Because what I'm hearing pretty universally from programs is the program is doing the right thing and trying to move the parent more towards an adult relationship. But the first thing they do when all of us say, well, this is how we do it in college, they skip over us and call an administrator. That's what we're all experiencing. And that's what's, the president's office is going to get a phone call because you won't do X, Y, and Z. And I think it's really important that our administrations are behind us, and then that we try and really get the parents, asking them how they would be willing to be involved and contribute to the program. You know, because sometimes I've had a parent say, well, I'm an accountant. I would love to do some financial literacy. Great. Could you do 20 minutes? You know, everybody can put up with a 20-minute TED talk from somebody. And that can work really well, especially if you have a section, like an FYE section with your students or some sort of class.
Yeah, I find parents are kind of chomping at the bit a lot of the time. If you can get access to their email, they want to be involved. They want to know what's going on. And so anything you offer that gives them the sense like, oh, okay, I get to understand this a little better. Many of them, and often your most kind of chronic over communicators will jump at that chance.
Mhm.
They just need to know we won't talk about the students at all.
Yeah.
It's FERPA. Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you sign. You may not talk about their student.
That's a great point, because one of the things that I find our relationship with CLE that has been so helpful is that we are a third party. We don't work with the kid. We don't know the student. We're not bringing updates, and that helps shift the parents' focus from managing behavior to managing themselves. So bringing in just anyone outside of your college sometimes even to do some of these presentations can help reduce the complaining that parents can get into, and just give them that kind of third party expert who's saying, yeah, it's appropriate for you to step away in this way.
Yeah. And so we try to be so clear on the front end of this is never going to be a student update, right? If you get on here as a parent and say, you know, is my kid having enough protein for breakfast and are they using mouthwash enough? We're going to go, we have absolutely no clue. You know, why don't you ask your kiddo? But that's so important to be, you know, very clear about that early on.
We hear parents echo back to us some of the things that they hear from Colin and Mary. Like we have I like that term, chronic over communicator. It's so objective and we know exactly what it is. And so I have a parent who's a chronic over communicator who called one of our students' advisors and said, I just have a question and I know I'm supposed to be an advisor at this point for my child. And that's something Mary has said, which is I'm an advisor now. I'm not like their problem solver. So they're sinking it in and they're reminding themselves of their changing role. And so if there's any way to infuse that empathy of their experience and give them strategies around that changing role, I think that that's one of the things that's been so valuable for parents to process with someone outside of us. Because I think there's a neutrality to it. It's not me as an educator saying, hey, back off, trust me, I got this. It's someone else understanding their experience in a wholly different way.
Probably. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Carrie.
I was just going to say, this is probably something that could be provided to all parents. And parent emails are known to the college and to the university. So maybe if it's just directed to all parents about how there needs to be a shift and, you know, what can advocacy look like now? Because neurotypical kids have just as many, I mean, we think that we are the only ones who have the parents doing this. It is not like that at all. I mean, there are parents calling faculty members all the time. I mean, we may have it a little bit more, but it's everywhere. As soon as they're walking out of someone's office, they're on the phone with mom or dad to say what went on during the meeting, you know, if it hasn't already also been recorded. But that might be a way to approach it.
I do think. Sorry, we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I just wanted to reinforce though what Hillary's question is about. Like it may be very common for all parents to have this kind of chronic overcommunication, but for a lot of the parents of students that you're working with in your programs, they are coming from a years of experience of really feeling like they had to fight for every inch of support. And so while they share some things with parents of neurotypical students, their stance might be a bit different because they are suspicious that you might be trying to not be helpful. So I think I'm going to put that out there as a perspective thing. But I love the idea of what I always call the developmental power of redundancy. And I always use that for my students. Like if students hear the same message from everywhere they turn on campus, it really starts to be absorbed. And I think that if you can be sure that the people that all of your staff and your colleagues are kind of using some of those same phrases, and talking about like, what do you want the outcome to be? And, and how can you be helpful? That sort of redundancy is really what parents, I think, then begin to absorb. So we're at 5 o'clock now, and I know this conversation could go on quite a long time, but I hope this has been helpful to you. It's given you some things to think about and some encouragement as you enter these few kind of chaotic weeks that involve a lot of parent chronic overcommunication. So Colin, Mary, and Amy, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the College Autism Network and this wonderful group. And folks, I will share the slides with you. We'll have a recording of this. I'm happy to give you the contact info for Colin and Mary if you want to follow up and get a little more support from them. And I'll be in touch, in a month or so with our next call. Good luck with the opening of the semester, though, and please keep in touch. And if you haven't, register for the summit. We will see you all together in October. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Mary. I'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take
Take care.